Welcome to the new normal. This is a series where we talk to our employees about how their lives have changed since we went fully remote a few weeks ago, how they've seen the lives of their customers change, and honestly, just how they're doing. Stay tuned for more about our new normal. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the new normal. My name is Shannon Curran, and I am here with Neil Forbes today. So Neil, if you could tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Sure. So I'm a leader on Mark Dow's customer success team. I have 3 teams of customer success managers and 1 team of account managers that partner up in our account teams. And I've been at QuickBase for about 4.5 years now. When I first started, we were still a part of Intuit. And so I've kind of been on the 4 or 5 year journey that some of us have just been a part of here, and it's been fun. When I started, I was in sales, so my first probably 3.5 years or so here, I've been running sales teams, and now transitioning over to customer success around this time last year.
Cool. And what did you do before QuickBase? This is a leading question because I think it's interesting.
Okay. So right before QuickBase, I was doing business development for a defense company based in Boston, but that was headquartered in the UK. And I was kind of running all over the world selling armor and gunshot detection systems to both the United States military and then also other friendly countries of ours. So I did that for about 4 years. And that was right after I got out of grad school. Went to grad school in California, and grad school came right after I was in the Army.
Cool. So all of our lives have changed a ton over the last few weeks. So can you tell me a little bit about how this has changed the way that you work? So like the reality of your job, like what parts of your job have changed?
So I think some of the good change that's taken place, some of the feedback we've got from our folks we stood up John Calora's account management team out in Salt Lake. I think part of what we've struggled with as a leadership team is how to keep everybody out in Salt Lake as close as we possibly can to everything that we're doing. So I think some of the interesting pieces of this, we had a ton of folks on our teams that were remote, whether they were in Salt Lake City or like Jacob McIntyre, one of my managers, he's out in Portland. We had a lot of folks that were remote. We had a lot of folks that were out on the road quite a bit. So we were equipped to kind of do some of the basics, right? Get set up and kind of plug in and run at it as best we can. But then the other piece of it has been, we've got to change maybe how we prioritize work, how we go about collaborating, how we do any number of things kind of on the back end. And so, some of the goodness that I think has come out of this has been our people in Salt Lake City feeling a little bit closer in regards to the information flow and the, feeling kind of a level playing field in regards to all of the communication coming out, which I think is great. And when we get back to the other normal or our newer normal, then some of that stuff I think will really help translate and help us be stronger. But then we're also prioritizing, like you get a feeling for which processes are working and which ones aren't really, really quickly. And just being able to deprecate some stuff that we stood up 2.5 years ago in customer success, streamlining things, making clicks work for customer success managers easier, right? Streamlining how they interact with our backend systems, our CRM, so that we can just make them a little bit more efficient with their time. So the change has just, I think, been largely a forcing mechanism for us to get stronger, I think.
Yeah, awesome. So in terms of, so your team is direct front lines with customers, right? So you guys are talking to them every single day. So what themes or problems have you seen a lot of our customers dealing with right now? So how have those conversations been going? What are the things that they're really trying to solve? I know we're hearing a bunch of things coming up in different industries, but are there any specific issues you guys are really working really hard to solve for our customers?
Yeah, so some customers, we've got manufacturers in the Midwest who make hybrid drive engines, electric drive engines. we began looking at them, or we've constantly been asking them, hey, like, we'd love to have a conversation with big IT. We've got a great classic QuickBase catalyst in the organization. She's helping us, maintain, but then also introduce us to folks. But we've never been able to kind of break through this, the barrier and get over the hump and have a conversation with IT. This comes out, we start experiencing the COVID-19 crisis in kind of a larger way. They had a Oracle supply chain management rollout in flight. It was going to take a long amount of time, as those things do. And then all of a sudden, as February turned into March, they started engaging with us in a vastly different way. And then in the second, third week of March, as coronavirus kind of took hold here in the United States, and cities started making kind of big changes in the way that we were living our lives, we started having very, very robust conversations with folks that we had never met over there. And all of a sudden, we've got software engineers, chief architects on their end looking at what they can do and what they can do quickly. Now, we're not, we're still in the early phases of this, getting introduced to folks. Our hypothesis as we look at their earnings call from February, where they're talking about coronavirus, they're mentioning it multiple times. Our hypothesis is that they can't wait for the deployment. They can't wait for the rollout, and they need something that's agile and quick. And now the chief architect and the other folks that were getting introduced, the directors of IT, they're looking at it like, okay, this is something that we can rapidly scale. We can get something out quickly, and it can meet the need right now as we begin to adjust our, not only delivering product in China, but then also as those supply chains come back up online, being able to roll out a system in conjunction with that helps them kind of adapt to this ever-changing environment. So that's just really exciting to see, because that's a manufacturing company that is trying to make sure they're here 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And SAP and Oracle, that's the way that it used to get done. And they're looking at QuickBase now as potentially a different way to think about solving the problem. And that's exciting to see people in a time like this lean into our platform.
Yeah, totally. So to take a step to the side, how are you doing just personally? So how much has your life changed? I know you have little ones at home. I know that sort of there's lots of variables in your life that didn't exist. Well, they existed, but in different ways a few months ago. So how are you doing as a person?
I'm doing great as a person. I mean, I have a unique background. I have done some relatively difficult things in my life. I was sitting with my wife eating lunch the other day, and I was eating Triscuits and tuna fish, which is literally something that I would just consume on a daily basis when I was deployed. And so there's just this element of just okay, I am just grateful that I've got kind of a support system here. My wife just happens to not be working right now. She is running at the kids. We've got a great school system out where we live. So we've been starting to kind of get into the workflow of how we absorb the curriculum, and then how she's able to kind of structure a day. I mean, listen, we've got young kids. There's a little bit of craziness. There's some times where I'm on mute on a Zoom call and it sounds intense down there. And so and but then I sit back and I'm like, all right, I actually, my wife doesn't have to run at her work or her Zoom calls either, right? And so I also know that I'm hopping on with folks on my team that have a baby on their lap. Their wife or their husband, their significant other is also running at their work. And so it's hard for everybody. I think, the biggest thing I try to bring to bear is just connect with people, figure out ways that they want to be or prefer to be communicated through. When I hop on a Zoom call, if I see people I haven't seen in a while, I usually try to Slack them and say hi. It's good to see their face. I mean, I'm just trying to not really think about what the reality is and just run at the work to a certain extent. It's freeing to a certain extent to just be all right, we're just going to plug in, help these customers out, and then step back and take a breath. I mean, I'm grateful we've got a yard. I'm able to get outside each day. We've got folks on my team and apartments.
That's where I am. So.
I have a keen appreciation for that. That's tough. It's stressful. Fresh air is really good, right? And so I think the biggest thing is like empathy, kind of up, down, and across.
Yeah, totally.
We've been on calls with Vista where Vista's been great, and they've got a level of humility about this too, right? Like it's kind of a great equalizer. Everybody's kind of in it together. And like you see on social media and just out there in the world, like people are just trying to lean in. I think one of the benefits of this difficult experience will be people finding more common ground, or just becoming a tighter knit piece of their community as a result of it, because people will band together as a result of what's going on. So I'm good.
Good. Glad to hear.
Keep calm and QuickBase on. We'll be fine.
We'll be just fine. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Sure.
And we're really excited to see all of you next week for another episode of The New Normal. Thanks. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Oh, yeah, we just stare at each other this way.
Awesome.
Please put that
awesome.
in the blooper reel.
Yeah.